Good evening, everybody. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams, and we have special guest tonight, Sofia Mona Lisa. Welcome, Sofia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a true honor.
Now, is it Sofia Mona Lisa all the time, or just Sofia?
Well, a lot of people do call me Sophia, so that's fine. I mean, I prefer Sofia Mona Lisa because it's my high priestess name. And so there's a frequency in my full name, but people do have a tendency to just call me Sophia. So either
Well,
way.
we will call you Sofia Mona Lisa, and on that note, I would like to properly introduce this goddess into our living room here because she is quite a treat. She just spent time doing my entire natal chart, which I'm going to share with you, and you can see what that is because she is an incredible astrologer and she has really explained some incredible things. And she took the time to do it in such a manner that I think you'll find very interesting. And she just has a great show. And so let's dig into a little bit about who this incredible woman is. Now, first of all, she's an alchemical creation high priestess, hence the name, and a shamanic priestess of the Magdalene Mystery Schools, founded by Nicole Christine, right?
Nicole
And
Christine.
she, yes, and you have the Golden Ray Center, which is an Aquarian Age goddess temple, and it's to restore the culture of sovereignty. And there's no mistake in that. And there's no mistake that we met on the Truth Tour. So we can go into the sacred relationship and the Rose Wheel Mystery School and all that you offer in the Golden Ray Center. But let's talk, first of all, I'd like to dive into just how you got into doing the astrology as your mainstay because you're so good at it. Now, what
Thank
is
you.
it that brought you to that place?
So it's an interesting story because my Mercury is in Aquarius. So my communication style is like way out there in terms of like the universe and frequencies and stuff. And I was always attracted to astrology. And it was my coping mechanism. Anytime anything was going on with me that was challenging, that I needed to understand, I would go to somebody in terms of astrology to help me understand and get clarity around it. But I wasn't able to do it for myself. And I read all kinds of books and they didn't help. And then what happened miraculously, really, is that when Neptune made its transit into Pisces, which it's the ruler of, it was like I was given the Rosetta Stone. All of a sudden, I could look at a chart and I could read it. And so I didn't really have a class. I went to one class, Kai Pacha, if anybody's familiar with Kai Pacha, who is an astrologer. He was
I've
here in
heard of
Florida.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I went to one of his classes here in Florida, but other than that, and it was actually that weekend that it's like it turned on, like somebody flipped a switch and all of a sudden.
Now, is it a type of astrology?
Well, the astrology that I use is called shamanic astrology. And I'm careful about using that term because there is a nonprofit by the name of the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. One of the founders of the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School, Kaylin Castell, is one of my priestess sisters, and they've trademarked that name, Shamanic Astrology. And I was actually introduced to shamanic astrology when I was in my priestess process. And because we deal with the archetypes of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, it just absolutely appealed to me. And I quickly recognized that it was an extension of my soul language. And so I've never taken classes from them, although they do offer classes. I've never trained under them. And I'm not a purist in terms of their body of information, but I just receive from the luminary bodies themselves what it is that they want me to know in terms of the energies that they are should be represented as. And so
Well,
I
you're a grand interpreter of that. Truly, you can feel it kind of coming through as you're doing it. It's neat.
thank you. Well, and so I often translate luminary bodies in a way that other astrologers may take an exception to, other astrologers don't at all. refer to, and that's okay with me.
That's even better. We like that here. We do things a little different over here too, so don't worry.
Yeah.
You're in the right place. Now you are a high priestess. Let's talk about that and how you came to that title.
Okay, so Nicole Christine, who is the founder of this mystery school lineage, it was downloaded to her, the priestess process, and the first group of women that went through the priestess process with her wanted to take it to the next level. And so then she received the next piece, which was the high priestess process. And so, of course, I felt very called to do that for myself. My soul tribe is the Virgo soul tribe. This tribe are the priests and priestesses from the ancient cultures, the ancient mystery schools that have come back to be in service to humanity. And so it was a natural affinity for me to follow that work. And many of the high priestesses that were originally trained under Nicole Christine either went down the Magdalene route, or the high priestess I trained under went under down the route of alchemy.
I'm
And
so
so
glad you pointed that out because that's a really big distinction. Let's
it,
talk about that distinction.
it is a distinction, and they're really connected, because if you look at what Yeshua and Magdalene were teaching, at its root, it was really alchemy. But many people follow the Magdalene in terms of really embodying their own sacred feminine, getting to know their sacred feminine, healing their sacred feminine, bringing their inner feminine into balance with their inner masculine. And all of that is significant work and must be done as we step onto this spiritual path. But I'm personally what we call a Scorpio goddess, and that has to do with where Venus was in its synodic cycle at the time that I was born. So as a Scorpio goddess, I'm very aligned to the alchemical mysteries. And that's why I was more inclined to go down that path, where we work with the elements and we are working with them in terms of manifesting that which we desire to manifest, where we're taking frequencies that are in separation consciousness, raising them in a conscious way into unity consciousness. And that's what my work tends to be more about.
Well, when you endeavored this, how old were you when you began?
Well,
Was it something you had as a child, or did you come across that at a certain time in your adult life that you said, "Aha, okay, this is where I'm headed"?
so this is the funny part about it. You know, I I was born knowing that I was here to do a mission. And I kept waiting for some kind of guidance as to where that path would go. And over the years it would evolve. But because I was born into this deep South, where all of my friends in school were trying to save me and get me to join their church, I couldn't talk to them about the things that I knew and experienced, because they didn't understand divinity. They didn't understand Jesus. They didn't understand God in those terms. And so it's something that I had to keep to myself for a long time. It was probably, I want to say, about a decade ago, I started having shamanic dreams. I mean, like, and people call them dreams, but it was shamanic experiences in the other planes. And I started looking for some formal shamanic training so I could understand what I was experiencing. And that's how I came across Nicole Christine's work. So I've probably emerged as the alchemical high priestess, creation high priestess, probably about 5 to 6 years ago. It's hard for me, because my Mercury's in Aquarius, to keep track of timelines. So
And so, when you happened upon that, what happened in your life that changed? What was the uh, turning point for you at that juncture?
well, what's really funny is when I went to the first meeting about this shamanic priestess process, And it was a weekend where we all got together and kind of got to know what it would be. I was like, nah, this is not for me. They're not going to fool me with this stuff. And then we had to stand in a circle at the end, and you had to say your yes. And I'm like, no way in hell. But then I actually heard Sofia speak to me and say, please do this for me.
Wow. That's
And
powerful.
I had to do it. As much as I wasn't going to do it, as much as I didn't want to do it, I didn't think it was what I was looking for. I had to take the leap of faith. And through that process, which was a 9-month process, and then a year and a day later, you can do the high priestess process, and that whole process and emergence, my whole paradigm shifted. And I was able to come into alignment with the path that I knew I was supposed to have been walking. It was what I had been waiting for.
Excellent.
And I
Isn't that
recognized
brilliant?
it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got the whisper in your ear to take that on. Now let's talk about Sofia for everyone that doesn't know who Sofia is. Who is Sofia that whispered in your ear?
So Sofia is the beloved of Christ. Christ as divine will, and his beloved Sophia as divine wisdom. And the Eastern nations, especially the Orthodox churches, have never forgotten about Sophia and divine wisdom. I
Do you
think,
know? Can I just interrupt you for a second? On the Truth Tour the other day, Juan O'Savin talked about, he specifically made a point about Russian Orthodox and Russian Orthodox children and how they were the ones that remembered. And I was brought up Russian Orthodox, and I didn't understand a thing about it because it was all in Slavish, but it's kind of come full circle. It's sort of odd, but go ahead.
yes, yes. And so she is coming back on this whole movement of like the reemergence of the sacred feminine that so many women have found themselves a part of in many, many ways, has been this impulse from the Sophia coming back onto the planet, because through patriarchy over the past, some would even say more than 10,000 years, the sacred feminine was stripped from our planet. And so coming back into the consciousness of people. But as I said, the Orthodox churches, they never forgot her. And now the Western religions of Christianity are starting to be reminded of her. And in fact, it was in my work that I was doing last year when I was teaching sacred feminine classes that I was told by Yeshua that the second coming of Christ, that people are waiting for Jesus to come back onto the planet, is really about the Sophia coming through each of us individually onto the planet. That's what the second coming of Christ is, because Christ and Sophia as beloveds are in perpetual sacred union. And so when you talk about the Christ, you're talking about Sophia. And when you talk about Sophia, you're talking about Christ. They cannot be separated.
I
You know,
know this. I know this. I'm telling you. I told you when you did the reading on me in the astrology that we work with the azestulite and the energy and blessing of Sophia through the azestulite on the grid. But this is interesting because you're talking about Orthodox and, let's just say in geography, that would put us into Russia and those countries, right? So those countries actually have some of the most sacred portals on this planet. And
yes,
people don't know that, but the
yes,
Sophia energy is coming through those sacred portals. And what I've experienced recently is that Sophia is coming up from the center of the earth at the same time she is emanating down into these portals.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely, that is true. And so, for people that have a hard time reconciling that, Jesus as our Lord and Savior, and is the Christ, has a beloved that is Sophia. Well, Mary Magdalene, Jesus's beloved on the planet, was an embodiment of the Sophia consciousness, and Jesus, or who I call Yeshua, was an embodiment of the Christ consciousness. And while they both allowed that energy to flow through them, the truth of the matter is that they both have, as we all do, both the Sophia and the Christ moving through them. And so I know that that's kind of a paradigm shift for people who have been really brought up into those fundamental Christian belief systems.
It may be, but honestly, in the work that we've been doing in the meditations and things, it's not a knowingness, and it certainly didn't come from me learning Slavish to imbue that. It was actually a discovery. And the discovery came time and time again. And the love of Sophia, the nurturing of that energy, is the very elixir, I think, that's coming. So your work in this, and the fact that you're embodying this as a channel through at this time on the planet, is so extraordinary. So let's talk about how that's affected you and what your relationship to Sophia has become since you've done this work.
Well, what happened is in 2019, one of my other priestess sisters led a Magdalene tour to the Cathar region of France. And I went on that tour with 7 other people. And we went to a place called the Seat of Isis. And the Seat of Isis is near Rennes Chateau. And that whole area is a part of a Venus landscape temple. And so we hiked up the mountain to sit in the Seat of Isis, which is known to be at least 5,000 years old or more, and is actually a stone seat. And we each took turns sitting in the seat. And it's so large, and I'm 5'2". I had to climb up to get into the seat. And the moment that I sat in the seat, I was taken into a multidimensional portal, and I had a highly significant multidimensional attunement. And it was at that time that the Sophia Christ consciousness was seated. The flame of that Sophia Christ consciousness was seated within me. And so it's a very intimate relationship. And I've learned since 2019, since having that what I receive, I trust. Because up until that point, I knew I was receiving stuff. I always doubted. I never believed what I was receiving was right. Since that point, the amount of trust and maybe some people would even say faith in knowing that what I'm getting is right has just shifted the way that I deal with what shows up in my external reality and what I receive in my internal reality. Because even if nobody else is saying it, I know it to be true. And even if other people want to dispute it, it doesn't matter to me because I know it to be true.
Yeah, you kind of can't shake it out of somebody once you know it, huh?
Right,
And
right.
and what's neat is you really don't have to know much of anything, because once it comes along, and it presents itself, and you just can't dispute that. It is.
Exactly, exactly. And this is the amazing thing about Christ consciousness and Sophia consciousness that I would really want people to take away. If you know that Christ consciousness is divine will, well, then how is that showing up around you and through you? And for me, nothing happens on this planet. Not a leaf falls from a tree, not a blade of grass moves without divine will. And so when you're inspired to something, that's the divine will. That's the Christ consciousness within you moving through you. And Sophia, as divine wisdom, she's that gnosis, that knowledge. And so people talk a lot about the ahas and the downloads that they get. And some people will dismiss that. But those ahas, those downloads, that's the Sophia consciousness coming into your awareness and sharing that wisdom with you.
Yes, and it's so loving. It's just
Yes.
such a guiding force. You know, we're always attuned to hearing about the Father,
Mm-hmm.
but there is divine Father and divine Mother, and
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
balance is the key, right?
It is the key. And so let's take it even a little bit further. The Christian faith understand the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But that's the Trinity of Christ. Sophia has her own Trinity, Mother, Daughter, Holy Soul. And so if you think about the Christ Trinity as the upward facing triangle and the
Yeah.
Sophia Trinity as the downward facing triangle, because they're always in perpetual union, then what you get is that Star of David
I was going to say this
image.
steps back into what some people are talking about as Masonic symbolism, but it had a much more sacred beginning.
Yes. And of course, the Star of David image, that's what people will recognize it as because that's the name that's been given to it, is a two-dimensional image. But if you look at it in a three-dimensional image, it's the star tetrahedron, which is built into the flower of life, which is the fundamental structure of everything manifest. Because where spirit meets matter, there you have the Sophia Christ consciousness.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And you know, the triangulation is part of the Fibonacci cycle. It's the actual mathematics, and this goes back to the quantum grammar and the
Yes.
contracting and using the quantum in everything. So the universe is really built on a mathematical equation, and sound and light are based on mathematics as well. So it all comes back to this. Now let's talk about the Golden Ray Center, because you have an incredible center that you are embodying here on the earth plane for people. What's the purpose of the center?
So the purpose of the center is to reestablish this culture of sovereignty and sacred relationship. And actually, we're at a moment here where, I established the Golden Ray Center as an Aquarian age goddess temple. Aquarian age meaning it's not brick and mortar. It's a goddess temple that anybody through the subtle planes, through the quantum field can engage with. And I established that, I want to say it was about I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But I'm at this point now with the work that I'm doing with the Sophia that she asked me to do in January in terms of the Galactic New Earth Project. And we can talk about that in a minute, where even the Golden Ray Center is now being evolved and is going to become what's known as the Galactic Center. And so I will be announcing that shift in evolution probably by the end of this month. And so while the Golden Ray Center has been birthed and it's out there, it's now evolving into this higher frequency of, and will be known as the Galactic Center.
Well, that's kind of fitting, because making life brighter is preparing the people on the planet for the golden age. And you know, the new network that's come along is called the Quantum Galaxy Network. So it's all sort of falling into its proper pathways.
Yes, yes. And
you
so
have you have the synergy on the planet, and the broadcast is happening. You are essentially helping people come into their understanding of the Sophia energy and embrace their balance, really, but their masculine and feminine, and especially their divine feminine, correct? And
yes.
you have a special worldwide project that you're doing with that.
Yes. So what I'd like to say first is that even the purpose of the center is being evolved. So the galactic center will be about igniting the sacred flame of your inner Sophia, Christos Sophia. So you see, even the whole focus is evolving. And again, it's because back in January, Sofia asked me if I would facilitate this galactic new earth project. And it's aligned with the Venus synodic cycle. And I thought, okay, there's 4 phases in the Venus synodic cycle. The piece she gave me took me through the first phase, which would have been, August. And I thought, okay, I can do that. So I said yes. And every month when we had a Venus gate activation, which is when Venus and the moon come together in the sky, we traveled through our etheric bodies to the different Venus temples that are located on the planet. And we installed the rose gold Christos Sophia light codes into those Venus temples. That's what we were asked to do. So about April or May, she came forward again and she's like, okay, now what I want you to do is when this piece is complete, I want you to link up all the Venus temples, bring them online, which will be the grid for the new earth. It's like a bridge that people can start using to start interacting with this new earth, fifth density environment. And what I want you to do from that point forward is I want you to repair the 12 strands of DNA and then reactivate them. So if you understand that our physical bodies have a divine template, that while within the physical body, those strands have been disconnected or turned off, they're still very much online in our divine template. So what we'll be doing at each of the gate activations is we will be connecting the strand of DNA in our divine template to the strand of DNA in our physical body that's been turned off, repairing them, matching them up, getting them reconnected, and then activating them and bringing them online. So by August of next year, we will have repaired and reactivated all of the strands of DNA and be fully online with the 12 strands of DNA.
Beautiful. Brilliant. This is beautiful work. And what will people be able to do? Will they tune into something? Will they go to these places? What's the intention?
So what happens is we do this work through a Zoom call. And so that way, anybody who around the world that wants to participate can participate. On my website, there is a tab or a page for the Galactic New Earth Project. And under the DNA activations, it's got the schedule of when those activations will be. And I found out right away, my intention was to just like put it out there and let anybody show up. But I found out right away that I couldn't do that because we got seriously attacked by the dark forces. So now it's by invitation. And what that means is, you have to subscribe to my newsletter because I send out the links through my newsletter. And if you know somebody that would want to participate, I have no problem with you forwarding that link to them. I just ask people not to publish the links on any kind of social media on the internet because, again, the dark forces came in and it was really ugly. So we get together. It's free. It's about an hour long. We do a slight meditation where we ground and we go within, and then we travel through our etheric bodies to these Venus temples. There's 8 of them around the planet. And then we do the ceremony and we come back, and then everybody gets to share about what their experience was.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It sounds very similar to the quantum healing meditations that we do in our world over here, but it's wonderful activation work that you've been asked to do through the Sophia energy. And so now if people want to visit a center, how do they go about that?
When you say visit a center, do you mean a
Is
Venus
the
temple?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. I just want to clarify. So these these Venus temples are also in the etheric field. And all of the activations that we did where we were installing the rose gold Christos Sophia light codes in these different Venus temples, all of those ceremonies have been recorded. They're on my YouTube channel, the Rose Will Mystery School, and it's under the playlist of the Galactic New Earth Project. And so because you and I know that everything is happening in the eternal now, anybody can go back and watch any of those ceremonies. They're joining us in the eternal now. In fact, because we knew they would show up, we've already called them in. And so they can watch those, they can participate with them. It'll be just as potent, just as transformative as if they had been with us when we were actually in this linear time recording the ceremony. And so you will be guided to travel through your etheric body to those Venus temples. And so where are the Venus temples? I already told you about the landscape Venus temple near Rennes-le-Château in France. There's one under the Alhambra Palace in Spain. There's one on the side of Mount Arafat in Turkey. There's one in the Canary Islands. There's one in New Orleans near the St. Louis Cathedral in the Old Town. There's one in Hawaii. There's one in Sedona. And I don't know if I've mentioned them all. There's 8 of them.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, that just sounds absolutely like a mission from Sophia.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And what's really fabulous and why it's considered galactic is because each of these Venus temples I discovered on my own when I started tuning in, they each have their own temple guardians. So the Venus temple guardians are involved. And because my actual galactic lineage is Arcturian and Pleiadian, there is actually a contingency of Arcturians and Pleiadians that agreed to assist with this mission. And they show up at each of the temples for the activations as well.
Yes, I understand. I understand completely, as a matter of fact.
Good.
Yes, the Arcturians and the Pleiadians are family. So very good. This is beautiful work, and
Thank you.
looking forward to seeing that come online. Actually, the effects of that, you know, you're already in it and doing it really, but the effects of it are going to be en masse soon. And
Yes.
whether people are actually participating in it directly or not, the effect is what's the point. It's very important. So now, as you step forward after this time frame, what is your focus next? Where are you headed in general with your work?
So actually, we are now in what's known as the second phase of the Venus synodic cycle. It's an underworld journey phase. It's called the Inanna underworld journey. And halfway through that phase, we have what's known as the resurrection point. And this is when Venus and the sun come together in the sky. And incidentally, it was at this resurrection point in the last Venus synodic cycle when Yeshua gave me the message that the second coming of Christ is the emergence of Sophia through humanity. So that resurrection point is this Saturday, October 22nd. We are going to be having a ceremony on Sunday, October 23rd. So if anybody wants to go to my website, goldenraycenter.com, join my mailing list, you'll get the Zoom link for that ceremony on October 23rd. And it's at that first ceremony where we're going to be linking up all of the 8 Venus temples, bringing that light grid online, and where we're going to be repairing and reactivating the 3rd strand of DNA.
Beautiful. Well, there you go. The triangle again, the trine, the third. This is interesting this evening.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
this. So now that you are doing that, you're doing it in a very particular window in time. Can you explain that astrologically, please?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the whole project is aligned with the Venus synodic cycle. And so every 19 months, Venus completes a synodic cycle. And every 8 years, she completes a rotation around the sun. And that the pattern that she makes in her dance with the sun is the pattern of the rose in the sky, which is why the rose is an ancient symbol that is associated with the sacred feminine. And when you look at the center of that rose, what you see is the 5-pointed star, the pentagram, also an ancient symbol associated with the sacred feminine. And so that 19-month journey, which started this year in January in the sign of Capricorn. So the sovereignty goddess is on the world stage right now because Capricorn is the sign of sovereignty. That 19-month journey is divided into 4 phases. We're in the middle of that second phase. After this second phase, this Inanna underworld is complete, we go into what's called the ascent journey. And when the ascent journey is complete, we have what's called the metamorphic underworld phase, which is a very short phase. And what happens is that the Capricorn goddess gets morphed, transformed into the next goddess that's coming onto the world stage, which will be the Leo goddess, which is the goddess of divine royalty.
Wow. What do you think that's going to usher in? Where is that taking everyone at that point?
Well, so what's happening is that humanity is going to start to understand that they weren't born in sin, that they aren't sinners, that they're not powerless, that we are human and divine. And so when you recognize that you're human and divine, then you can take back your sovereignty and you can claim your divine inheritance.
Beautiful. And that's the point to all of this balance. And this, so what is a divine feminine to you personally?
So to me, divine feminine is the aspects of the Sophia, the mother aspect, because most people relate to the divine feminine as the divine mother. For some reason, that's the one piece that didn't get lost, thank goddess. So a lot of people relate to the divine feminine as the divine mother. Of course, Magdalene, as an embodiment of Sophia, she is also that daughter aspect, just as Yeshua is the son aspect, S-O-N aspect, and then the Holy Soul aspect. And so this is something that people are going to get to know, because that's where we come together in community. Remember what Jesus said, where 2 or more are gathered in my name, there I am amongst them. Remember what I said, when spirit and matter come together, there is the manifestation of the Sophia Christ consciousness. And so I received that the mystical understanding of that phrase, where 2 or more are gathered, there I am among them, was actually talking about this spirit meeting matter, the presence of that Sophia Christ consciousness. And so when 2 or more come together, this is where the Holy Soul in that community aspect of Sophia can start to show up.
That's beautiful. How do you expect that to manifest within our culture, let's say? What would it look like to have that in motion fully in a community?
Well, I think we're already seeing it with the Truth Tour.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
Look at all of the people that showed up in Clearwater.
Right.
From all over. Some people even flew in from out of state. Some people have been going from location to location. For myself, yesterday, I watched the whole live stream of the event in Arkansas. Look at all the people that were there. And so the communities are coming together. The people are finding themselves. And I personally believe that that's the movement of the Holy Soul aspect of the Sophia through the people.
That's brilliant. Do you think that the males understand that?
I do. And let me tell you why, because for a while there, I wasn't convinced that they were getting the message. I cannot tell you how many people came up to me after I did my presentation on Friday, with such an overwhelming response to what I had to share, and half of them were men. I was
Yeah.
stunned.
Beautiful.
Yes,
Beautiful. That's the
yes,
point. Wonderful. That's so important because you touched people and you touched maybe the feminine within the male, right?
exactly,
That's
exactly.
that's the balance is what we're seeking really. So,
The balance is what we're seeking. And what we need to understand also about this move of Pluto through Capricorn is that this move of Pluto through Capricorn is about taking down patriarchy. Many people think that patriarchy is the masculine energy. It is not. It's the sacred masculine that's been perverted. People don't understand what an embodiment of sacred masculine energy looks like because they haven't dealt with it. And so, what's happening with these men when they're able to get in touch with their inner feminine, then that can come in touch, get balanced with their inner masculine. They start to move from that sacred masculine place and they start to turn away from the perverted patriarchal energy.
yes, thank you. I teach a series called the Christ series, and
I didn't
in that,
know that.
Christ is saying, he is saying that one of the number one things that will ruin this time on earth is the perpetuation of pornography and perverted energies that are out of balance with what was meant to be. And that must be overcome. So, what
Yes,
you're doing and the work that you're doing will, even by default, help that set into place. And hopefully that catches fire so that that transition is fairly seamless and easy. Because I think, men are in fighting mode right now and they're polarizing toward the fight because that's what they're geared to do in a way.
right,
We're going to protect our family. We
right.
don't know what's coming. We're not sure what's happening out there. And in fact, there's those of us that do see what's happening out there, and we do, in a way, and I'm not going to play God here, but in a way, know what's coming. And God has the upper hand, in my opinion, all the time in terms
Yes,
of how it gets played out and what happens. But in the bigger picture, that loving energy can turn the tide. And I believe that. I stand for that. And I feel like you do
absolutely.
too. You
Yes,
understand taking that balance. And you're just talking about what is meant to come through now and rebalance the entire nature of what's been put out of balance.
right,
So, like the 13 cycles versus the 12, right? I
right.
mean, Sophia energy is taking that which was meant to be in total divinity and put it back in its right place.
Exactly. Exactly. And I really appreciate how you keep speaking to that loving energy, because what's important for people to understand is that the manifestation of the union of Christ and Sophia is that divine love frequency.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It is. It is. It is. I don't know. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, yes, it
That's
is.
all I can say. It's a beautiful thing, and we don't even need to say it. We both know it's a
Right,
beautiful thing. And to
right.
come into that, it takes away this fear of what's happening right now on the planet, which people need some elixir for. Really, it
Yes,
takes away the storm that's coming and the death and destruction and all these things and the sacrifice for sovereignty. Maybe there can be a sweeter way, and what you're about to do and what you're doing and involved in is preparing those that want to catch wind of that and
right.
help in that way. And I think that's brilliant work. You've just got a beautiful, sweet soul, and you have amazing energy and incredible delivery, and your astrology is cool. Now, can people reach out to you for that, or are you only doing it as influencers?
Oh, if anybody knows of anybody that is it, I mean, we're all influencers, right? We're all in service to the divine. The Sophia Grace consciousness works through all of us. No one person is more special than another. So if anybody's aware of somebody that they know that is really making a huge impact and would like for me to do an episode on them, they can certainly get in touch with me through my contact page on my website, and I'm happy to do it. I started this series, Spotlight on Influencers, to focus on how people that are considered influencers are actually working to uplift humanity. And it was an attempt to take the focus off of all of the bad stuff that you see and hear about, and focus on how humanity is still working to uplift, and it's being uplifted through these individuals.
That's so incredible. And honestly, it's an honor that you even asked me to do that too. So thank you. But I certainly learned a lot, and I'll be
Yeah.
contemplating that as I go. But now, do you do any of that astrology for anyone? Do you
Yes, I
just
do.
privately do sessions?
Yes, I do all kinds of different types of reading. I can do the soul mission reading. I can do a solar return chart reading, which tells you what's going on in your evolutionary path over the course of the year, from your last birthday to your next birthday. Anything specifically that you want to look at, I can do a reading on. And in fact, with the Galactic New Earth Project, what I did in the first part where we were installing the codes at the temples, I was offering what I was calling light code readings, where you could have a reading to understand exactly what light codes you were contributing to the Venus temple, that will now, when it's brought online, be a part of that light grid that's in service to all of humanity. And going forward, as we do these DNA activations, I'm going to be offering DNA activation readings so that you can see what kind of superpowers, right, divine gifts are being turned on with that specific strand of DNA.
Neat. Well, I think there's a whole bunch of people out there that are going to love that.
Good, good.
I think there's so many people that are coming online right now with their connection again
Yes,
and the recognition of self and who they be. So your work
yes.
is very important at this time, and it's really a beautiful, beautiful commission.
Thank you.
So congratulations on being asked to come to Earth at this time to do this, and we love that you're here. And
Thank
we
you.
just want to say thank you for being with us. Is
My
there anything that you'd like people to know?
I just want to remind them, you, whether you know it or not, whether you participate or not, this work with the Galactic New Earth Project is happening. And so when you choose to consciously engage, it's that much more potent and transformative for you personally. And it's free. So go to my website, goldenraycenter.com, click on the subscribe button so that you can get the Zoom links and the notifications when we're doing the ceremonies, and join us in the
Beautiful.
ceremonies.
All right. Well, that sounds so divine. And God bless you in your connection to Sophia
Thank you.
and bringing forward the divine feminine on earth. So, Sofia Mona Lisa, and she is here doing her work in the Golden Ray Centers. And you can go to goldenraycenter.com.
Yes.
Yes, to find her work there. And like I mentioned earlier, she did a beautiful piece on my astrology chart, which I will post as well. And you can see how her work is so beautiful and positive and wonderful in the way she lays it out, and informative. She has a great knowledge of that. And that is just a gift. So thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being here. And thank you for being on the Truth Tour. What a pleasure to meet you. So,
Thank you. Listen, Denise, the tour manager, is one of my priestess sisters.
oh, beautiful. Denise Bliss
Yes,
Phillips. And
yes,
she
yes,
is incredible. What an
yes,
incredible woman.
yes,
She's also an Arcturian sister.
yes.
And she is just a person that is filled with light. It was like connecting back, like, oh, hey,
Right,
hey, I know you. Oh,
right.
wow. Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
that's, that's exactly right.
That's wonderful. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm going to say go jolly to everyone, and you are making our lives brighter. Sofia Mona Lisa, thank you so much. We will connect again. You'll be busy in the work that you talked about on the 23rd, and I'll be out in LA, and we'll
Yes.
be doing whatever timelines we're managing out in the Truth Tour.
And
So
let me just say, it is absolutely synchronistic that that LA finale event is happening at the resurrection point.
that is so wild.
It is wild.
It's all coming together, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we'll have you back to hear more about how this project is going.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Go Jolly. And you can check out my show. You can come on this Thursday live with Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer. And you can call in live and he will do a reading for you. We're going to be talking about his book, The Afterlife Frequency. So stay tuned and we'll see you on Voice America on Thursday.